Want to know how I know that? This Kaplan story I'm telling you now has hardly had a breath of publicity after weeks in which Pakistanis and Muslims whose names nobody knew were plastered on the front of every newspaper. But a man at the centre of Tony Blair's Labour government is caught out in the way he was caught out. It can't even get on the news.
Ivor Caplin, a man who was only arrested yesterday, has already been released on bail. I am absolutely shocked and appalled. This man was hunted, the evidence was gathered and live streamed on Facebook for viewers to see. And yet he gets released on bail until April the 10th. Someone please tell me how this has happened when all the work was done for the police and yet this filth gets away with it. One man who is not staying quiet is former MP George Galloway. I actually commend him for calling this out. Let's take a look.
Now, that's not all you need to know about Ivor Caplin. You need to know that he's not a Pakistani. He's not even a Muslim. As a matter of fact, he's Jewish and he is a rabid supporter of Benjamin Netanyahu. And his Israel, by the way, is turning out to be quite a playground for that type of person.
No BS and straight into it. The Independent wrote back in November 2016, 8 years ago, Israel becoming haven for pedos with laws that allow any Jews to legally return. A Jewish person from anywhere across the globe can be fast-tracked for citizenship in Israel, as well as their spouses, children and grandchildren.
Because it is now an axiom, an axiom, that the more rabidly pro-Israel Zionist you are, the more likely you are to be a corrupt and repulsive individual. You have to be repulsive to be completely unmoved at the mass murder of children on a daily basis. For sure, almost 100 children have been murdered this year, and it's only the 12th of January. But the moral, repugnant, revolting degeneracy displayed in the personal lives and the business lives of the biggest supporters of Israel is now legion. I don't have time to adumbrate the wickedness of these people. And as a believer in right and wrong myself, I have to believe that it is not a coincidence that the biggest supporters of Zionism in the Western world are almost always, with one or two exceptions, are almost always the most repugnant individuals.
I wouldn't dare share with anyone to even visit Ivor Caplin's X account. It's filled with absolute filth and I wouldn't want any of that nastiness to find its way into anyone. Staying on this, Declassified UK back in May 2021, 4 years ago, while the UK government has been backing Israel's intense bombing campaign in Gaza, Declassified can reveal that a third of cabinet members and the foreign minister responsible for the Middle East have been courted by the Israeli government or pro-Israel lobby groups. Of the 23 cabinet members, 8 have been funded to visit Israel or Washington DC, while members of parliament to the tune of at least £14,000. These are the people who are representing the UK, and the same goes for the US too. The bombardment again highlighted here, and in the midst of that you have fully funded holidays for our ministers. Disgraceful.
Now, and the media life in this country now. Want to know how I know that? This Kaplan story I'm telling you now has hardly had a breath of publicity after weeks in which Pakistanis and Muslims whose names nobody knew were plastered on the front of every newspaper. But a man at the centre of Tony Blair's Labour government is caught out in the way he was caught out. It can't even get on the news. That's how I know that this cult of Israel has become the dominant cult in political life in Western countries. And that is an issue, a story, a narrative that is as true in the United States, where many of you are watching now, as it is true in Britain, as it is true in Germany, as it is true in France and other European countries.
Thank you, George, for explaining that so well and for standing up for the Pakistani and Muslim community and exposing the double standards. People need to hear it as it is. George Galloway explained that so incredibly well. The news outlets are unsurprisingly very quiet on this subject. So let's take a look at some of the responses on X. One user wrote, at BBC News protecting Ivor Caplin, it seems. How deep does this go? Another user wrote, the absolutely only BBC coverage on any BBC platform on the Ivor Caplin scandal is a tiny announcement that doesn't even say the name and just says an unnamed guy arrested for child grooming has been released on bail until April. Another user wrote, why are you refusing to report on Ivor Caplin? Yet another BBC cover-up. Another user wrote, BBC website still has zero coverage of the Ivor Caplin allegations. That's effed up. If he was a left-wing politician, they'd have been leading on it and harassing ministers about it, but a Labour right figure? Crickets. That's it for today's video, guys. Ivor Caplin has been bailed. Let's pray this man gets what he deserves and more. George Galloway, thank you for your words and speaking up. I'm going to end it with a video showing Ivor being detained just because I find it satisfying. Thanks for watching. Support me by liking and subscribing, and I'll see you on my next video. Peace out.
That's what you were trying to do?
I don't know his age.
You know his age accurately. This child regularly.
If I knew his actual age,
This
and
child-
I don't know that, then I wouldn't do anything. Obviously.
This child regularly told you that they were at school and they were doing school-related activities.
Yeah, but that's not the same as knowing age. I have never. I want to ask him what his age is, and I've never done that.
Yes, you did.
No, I have never done that.
Of course.
No, I have never done that. So I want to ask that question.
You've asked that question. I've read it. Clear and simple terms.
Anyway.
You know exactly how old this child was.
And you wanted this child to bring other children, so that you could abuse more than one child.
No.
You used to be
Never happened.
you used to be a veterans minister.